It's Saturday, December 28th, 2019. I wanted to make a video today. I wanted to talk a little bit about 2020 and what I see coming. Just my own opinion. We all have an opinion. But just reading some articles, looking at some numbers, looking at some facts, I just wanted to share with you my thoughts on 2020. I truly believe that in the year 2020, we are going to see the cracks go much deeper, get much wider. You know, as we close up this 2019, as we watch this illusion we call the stock market with all the artificial injections, this fake Ponzi scheme that has been going on now for over a decade since the last crash, with corporate buybacks, low rates, massive cash injections, now quantitative easing, with this liquidity crisis in the repo market. We are going to enter 2020, and I truly do believe that these cracks are going to get much worse. The holes in the dam are spreading. We can't keep up with the pace of plugging up all the holes. The cracks keep getting bigger and bigger, and they're popping out faster and faster. And so I do see 2020 as being a very chaotic year, geopolitically, financially, and socially. I read an article here today, and you know, I try to read most of the comments, and there's always a handful of people that continue to write in and just tell you and I that the economy is booming because somewhere in Timbuktu, there's an auto dealership selling cars. Somewhere in Mayberry or Timbuktu, there's a realtor that sold a couple houses this week. And so the economy is booming. But the common denominator is with most of these people is they just point at the stock market at all-time highs. Their 401k, their money market is exploding. It's doing so wonderful. Yet they don't have the money in their hands. They're looking at digits on a screen. Now, if you wanted to get that money, you would be taxed ferociously. So it's funny that if you want that money, they're going to take more than half of it the minute you want it. But they keep looking at the digits on a screen, believing everything is okay. It's okay until it is no longer okay. But it's the stock market, it's the 401k, it's the money market, so everything is okay. But they don't truly look at what's happening. And the best way to see what's happening is look at what's happening in the economy. Truly look with your own eyes and listen with your own 2 ears what's happening. When you go out there, take a look at what's happening to your shopping centers, the malls. We can't blame everything on the internet, okay? The mom and pop stores, the middle class are being annihilated. Inflation at the grocery store, everywhere you shop, is going through the roof. We know that almost half of Americans have no money saved up. We know that there's a massive pension crisis here in America. We know that there's massive trouble in manufacturing, in trucking, in the auto industry. And yet people will tell me that everything's okay because their 401k is doing well. They believe that America's in good shape, being $23 trillion in debt. Half of America doesn't even have a dollar saved up. 50% of U.S. workers make less than $33,000 a year. Your taxes are going to continue to go up. Inflation is going to continue to go up. Gas is going to continue to go up. The cost of living continues to go up. Yet these people with their little 401ks believe everything's okay because their 401k is doing well. Some blips on a screen. They don't understand how quickly those numbers on a screen can disappear, and it can happen overnight. I want to go over an article that I read today on Zero Hedge. Auto lenders have verified income on just 7% of all loans since 2007. So as we see this fraud taking place in the stock market, as it will continue into 2020 with all this fake data, all this optimism, all this trade war talk, more corporate buybacks, low rates going lower, you name it, okay? This thing is so fake, and this is why the stock market is still standing. And it's standing on very weak legs. And it's going to take one event to set this thing off. It's going to take one spark to light this bomb, and we are going to see big trouble in America. And I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow or next week, but it is unavoidable. This whole house of cards, all this debt is unsustainable. But getting back to this article, again, as people tell me how good they're doing in Timbuktu and Mayberry, that I think somebody wrote me about a week ago and told me out in North Carolina, the car dealership he was at, they were just selling cars left and right. But according to what I'm reading, they're not selling cars so fast. And what's interesting is if they are selling cars, it's how they're doing it. There's more fraud. So the fraud isn't just in the stock market. We're seeing fraud in the auto sector unlike we've never seen before. And it's absolutely crazy. In this article, I'm going to go through it here for you quickly. Myrna Lopez, a 65-year-old woman, bought a 2018 Nissan Pathfinder. Nice SUV, probably depending on how it's set up, what kind of upgrades, you're probably looking anywhere, I would guess, between $40,000 and $50,000. She was making only $660 a month. Her monthly payment was slated to be $809 a month. Do we see a problem here? The Wall Street Journal reported that an employee at the dealership that sold her the car simply listed her monthly earnings at $7,853. Nothing fancy, nothing creative, just plain old fraud. So this is now how America is selling cars. While the auto industry struggles with a recession, it is mirrored in some dealerships around the country that are dressing up loan applications with fake incomes, according to consumer lawyers. This is obviously very, very dangerous, as there are literally millions of people in America now driving cars that they have no business driving. Some large lenders have cut back on safeguards that could catch the fraudulent applications. See, they don't want to catch them. This kind of sounds like 2005, 2006 in the housing market, doesn't it? So what we see now is usually a quick default on the loans and consumers destroying their credit. People are being ruined financially. This is on their credit for 5 to 10 years. And reading that in this article, I think to myself, you can only blame the dealerships and the banks for so much, but at some point, the consumer has got to blame themselves. If you're making $660 a month, what can't you figure out that you can't afford a car that costs $809 a month? So at some point, just like when we had the housing crash in '08, countrywide and the banks making these fraudulent loans, knowing that these people couldn't pay it back. But these people at some point have to take responsibility too. So I blame everybody. I blame the banks, I blame the dealerships, and I blame the people that are doing this. And so this is going to be a huge mess. Keep an eye on this in 2020. It's a ticking time bomb. According to Point Predictive, which sells software to detect loan fraud, the company estimates that now that more than 20% of all loans have inflated incomes. That's a lot of cars. The dealers have so much inventory that many don't even ask for documentation to prove income. In fact, lenders verified income on about 7% of all loans since 2017. Imagine how busy the repo companies must be right now. I mean, that must be the booming business here in America, with the amount of Class 8 heavy-duty trucks that are being repossessed now, with all the trucking companies going out of business, over 800, and now with the defaults on auto loans, they must be swamped. The delinquency rate is surging, and one reason is because these people who bought these cars could not afford them. Again, this sounds just like what was happening back in 2005 and 2006 in the housing market. People knew they couldn't afford this, and look at the damage it caused. There is over $1.3 trillion in outstanding auto loan debt. That is up $740 billion, up $740 billion from a decade ago. So just imagine if this fraud was not being committed right now in the auto industry, what the auto market would look like right now. It would have already probably collapsed. I mean, I can tell you from experience, and people said, oh, no, 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 JB, you're making this up. That couldn't happen. I said probably 6 or 7 months ago that a very good friend of mine, and this is just one example because I've had a couple people tell me the same story, but it's a very good friend of mine. His wife went into Orange County and traded in a vehicle, very nice vehicle, for a nicer vehicle. She does not work. She makes no income. They basically let her drive off the lot with a $55,000 used car. Okay, and people said, oh, no, no, that couldn't happen. Well, I just verified on this article that it didn't just happen once with my friend, okay? And they can afford the car. But imagine how many people are driving into these lots and driving off these lots who cannot afford these cars. Obviously, look at the delinquency rate right now. Over 7 million people are 90 days plus delinquent on their auto loan payment. So it's only going to get worse. Imagine how many people are 30 to 60 days delinquent. I don't have that number. If you know what that number is, please let us know. I'd be very curious to see how many people are 30 to 60 days delinquent. But over 7 million people, 90 plus days delinquent on their auto loans. So this is happening on a daily basis. And these auto dealerships are just overridden with inventory, and they're doing anything to get these cars off the lots in order to make room for the new ones that are coming in. So we'll keep an eye on that. But again, this is a ticking time bomb, and something is going to spark this. And this is going to be a big problem because there are millions of people here in America driving cars that they cannot afford. They're on borrowed time. And what happens when those people lose their cars? Like, how do they get to work? What happens? That's going to be big problems. Their credit's destroyed. Now, how do they rent an apartment? How do they buy a house? How do they get to work? It's a big problem. And who's going to eat, all these loans? Okay. When the car comes back, it's certainly not worth what they lent on it. And so they go to auction. Cars are depreciating, especially the older they get. So somebody is going to eat it here because these cars are depreciating on a daily basis. And when they get them back, you don't know the condition that they're in. So these banks are going to eat it big time with these automobiles. And so we'll see how it plays out in 2020. Can they keep throwing cash into these markets and keeping them going? How long can this go on? Many people think it's going to go on forever. I certainly do not believe this is going to go on forever. I believe, as I said earlier, 2020 is going to be the year where we see some very, very big symptoms of all these cash injections and all this manipulation. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. Are we going to start seeing big problems in 2020 with all these cash injections, or will it be 2021? Will it be 2025? Or will it just go on forever? I'd love to know your opinion. Right now, the Fed is repeating quantitative easing and low rates to stem a crisis in the repo market. Yet, people will tell me everything's good in Mayberry and Timbuktu, but the Fed now, since September 16th, has now injected around $1 trillion in the repo market, yet we should all believe everything is okay. I'm here to tell you, in 2019, things are not okay, and they're going to be getting much worse in 2020. I think, in my opinion, that this repo market is going to get much worse. The injections are going to get much bigger. The Dow Jones is 3 times higher than it was in 2010, and it's been driven by phony data, low rates, and corporate buybacks. Yet people don't see what's really going on, okay? If we just took back the corporate buybacks and the low rates, where would we be right now? If the Fed wasn't injecting, hundreds of billions of dollars a time into these repo markets, where would we be right now? I mean, this is all being propped up by the Federal Reserve. It's not being propped up by an economy, because these markets have no relationship to the economy. The economy sucks. The economy is in bad shape, yet the markets are going up. And yet people don't see the manipulation. Global GDP is $85 trillion. Global debt is $260 trillion. The global economy is levered by a factor of 3 to 1. Now, you don't have to be a math whiz to figure out there's a big problem here, yet people still want to deny that there are problems. They want to, they don't want the party to stop. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't wake up and come to reality really quick, you're going to put yourself in a really, really bad, a real dangerous situation here, because when this begins to collapse, people aren't going to be able to get out of it. And everybody is going to feel the pain. And this is why it's so important that every one of you is preparing in many ways. What I always find interesting are these people that want to accuse me of just being doom and gloom. And, to be honest with everybody, I'm a pretty positive person. I try to enjoy life. I like to have balance in my life. But I'm a person that if I see a storm coming, I'm preparing for it. And I find these times to be some of the most exciting times in my lifetime. And they are some of the most exciting times in history. What we are about to experience are going to be historical and biblical times. And, I don't need to watch a football game, because this is the biggest game in the world, what is taking place right now. It's going to be biblical. It's going to be historical. And many of us have some big decisions to make as we approach what is coming. I'm just here to wake people up the best that I can, to share with them my opinions, to reinforce my ideas with you, because I share a lot of the same ideas that you have. And as I've said many, many times, there are many people out there much brighter than myself, much more intelligent, much more awake. Down in those comments, if you really want to grasp knowledge and absorb knowledge, read the comments down below, because you people are so well informed, so open-minded, so intelligent. The comments down below just make you think. They make you think outside of the box. So anybody watching this video, you're going to learn more down below in the comments than you are watching my video, just to be honest. But I'm just an American here who's concerned, who's worried, but I also believe we should all have balance. We should all take a break. We all have to have positivity. We've got to spend time with our family, friends, and enjoy some life. We don't need to dwell on this 24 hours a day, but we also can't be asleep. We can't be ignoring it. We can't be in denial. We can't be sticking our heads in the sand with what's going on, because chaotic times are coming. And many of us have to make some sacrifices in order to make the proper preparations. Yes, I would love to go take a vacation next week, but I won't be doing that. I'll be buying precious metals. Yes, many of us would probably love to be buying into these markets, making money right now. But I believe that the big sales are coming. There is a time to buy and a time to sell. I believe that if we look at real estate, I believe it's a time to sell, not the time to buy. We look at the stock market. I don't want to be buying in a bubble. This is not the time to be buying. But anyways, I want to go talk a little bit more about this. These same people that will say I'm about doom and gloom never want to talk about the massive debt we've acquired here in America and how it's going to be dealt with, and the danger that this debt is going to cause America. They just want to tell me how good the stock market's doing. A stock market that's doing well, but a country that with $23 trillion of debt, $200 trillion if we include unfunded liabilities, Medicare, Medicaid, and a pension crisis. But nobody wants to talk about that. So what I do want to ask these people is, where did all of this money go? What did we get for this $23 trillion of debt? Where is all the money? How come our pensions are unfunded? Where is the money? Ask yourself, again, where did the money go as this country is falling apart? As Americans go hungry, as Americans are sleeping on the street, as Americans sleep on the sidewalks, as vets cannot be taken care of, yet we're $23 trillion in debt. What did we get? I don't see infrastructure. I don't see new highways. I don't see anything. I don't see new factories. I don't see anything that's producing revenue or an income that is going to pay this debt back. So what did we get for this debt? Where is it? Comment down below. Let me know. Where is the money? A military-industrial complex, wars, etc. It certainly isn't in the infrastructure here in America. It's not building factories. It's not building up business. It's not taking care of homeless people. It's not creating jobs. But yet, people will call me doom and gloom. I'm just asking questions. Where's the money? Let's talk corporate debt. It's amazing. The stock market is surging, yet corporate debt is at all-time highs. Ask yourself, what would happen if interest rates just went up just a little bit? What would happen to these companies and to these corporations that borrowed massive amounts of money for next to nothing? So while banks and corporations are borrowing money for next to nothing at the very top of the pyramid, the people down below are struggling. But the day of reckoning is coming to America. What is going to happen at some point, rates are going to go up. And if they go up just a little bit, we are going to see a massive cleansing of these corporations in these markets. When you really look at what's happening, all this has been built on top of quicksand. Many companies will go bust, triggering a wave of panic in the market. Investors trying to exit corporate debt will find themselves trapped in illiquidity, driving prices to the floor. This, my friends, is when you want to enter these markets. This is when you want to be a buyer in these markets. This will be the opportunity of your lifetime when this happens. There's another thing here that we have to remember. Corporations, cannot print money like governments can print money. They have to borrow the money. And when they can't pay it back, they may go after your pensions. Remember, they're going to look out for themselves first. This is when they start laying off people, getting rid of people. This is when they start robbing pensions, because they're going down. So the last resort is get rid of people and rob the pensions. This is why it is imperative that every one of you has a plan, a backup plan. I hate to say this, but many pensions are not going to be here down the road. In the future, you're going to be lucky. Many people are going to be lucky if they receive 50% of their pensions, 25% of their pensions. Many of these pensions are wiped out. And as we know, majority of pensions in America are unfunded. And as we enter a financial crisis, they're going to become more unfunded. So make sure you have an emergency fund. Make sure you're putting cash away. Make sure you're not relying on some digits on a computer screen for your future. Make sure you're holding gold, make sure you're holding silver, make sure you're holding cash, and make sure you're holding all preparations. Listen, if one more person tells me, oh, you can't live on gold and silver, I would argue that. But I don't think you want to be selling gold and silver for food when this hits. So make sure you have your own food, your own water, your own security, and yes, your own gold and silver, because when the dust settles and this thing resets and we get back to some sort of monetary policy, real money is going to be in demand. This is going to give you the advantage. This is going to give you the head start. This is going to give you real buying power. So make sure that you are stacking as much gold and silver as you can. And remember, it's never been worth zero. You're exchanging fiat monopoly money for real money, money that has had a history of over 5,000 years here on planet Earth. It's going to be here long after we're gone. And it's actually up in heaven. It's been in the Bible. I don't know, gold and silver are mentioned, at least silver I think has been mentioned 140 times in the Bible. Gold is mentioned in the Bible, the streets of gold. And no matter what anybody says, God loved gold and silver so much, he put it here on earth, and he built heaven out of gold and silver, and he rewarded people in the Bible with gold and silver. That doesn't mean make gold and silver your God. Don't be a lover of gold and silver. Don't make it your God. Don't worship it, but make sure you have it for your survival and your family's survival. So I'm going to wrap it up right here on this beautiful Saturday evening. And I'm going to leave you with this. The day of reckoning is coming to America. No man knows that day, but it is coming. I will tell you this. You may not be a spiritual person, but I am. I believe God is showing us signs of the things coming. And you can make a choice. You can believe that or not believe it. You can believe in the US dollar. You can believe in the stock market. You can believe in the fake data. You can believe in the media. That's fine. My trust is in God. My trust is with my own two eyes, my own two ears. My trust is in hard, tangible assets, not in paper. If we keep heading in this direction, at some point the US government will lose credibility. And all those foreign investors who buy US debt at low rates are no longer going to be buying debt at low rates. The price of debt is going to go through the roof. Make sure you are protecting yourself. Make sure that you top off all preparations. We're heading into 2020. This is the time. Start your New Year's resolution today. Don't wait till the 1st. Start it right now today. Top off all preparations. Get your security in order. Get your family in order. Get your funds in order. Get your assets in order. The day of reckoning is coming to America. I don't know when it's going to be, but I do know that we have an opportunity starting today to prepare.